Mr. Volpe, maestro. We're now sitting here in a
Oh, the weather's bad tonight.
nice view. Mr. Volpe, how did you get started in the guitar?
Oh, I started in Italy. I must have been about 7, 8 years old. There was some woman that played a little guitar, and she taught me a few chords, you know. And I liked the way the guitar sounded. And she taught me how to play a D chord and an A7 chord. Then I says, look at this. I can play D and A7 without looking. Then I played the G chord. She taught me a lot of chords, you know. And from then on, I used to sing and play those 4 chords that she taught me, so on. And that's how I really got started. Then when I came to America, I was 14 years old, and I played the guitar, but they played mostly the banjo. So I bought myself a banjo, and I played also the banjo, and I played Hot Juice, That's My Baby Knows, on the banjo. But I always practiced the guitar, you know. It was a great thing. Those were the days.
But, what, your family, you were brought up in Italy and your family decided to come to America?
Yeah, my family, well, we were all in Italy, and then I came here. The whole family's supposed to come to America, but my sister's eyes were bad, so she couldn't pass through the examination. So my mother says, well, you go to America with your father. And I came, when I was 14 years old, I came in New York with my father. You know, my father was an accordion maker, and he played the accordion, the chromatic accordion. And so finally I went with him in Boston, and he was making accordions there for a music company. It was called the Dorsey Music Company in Hanover Square in Boston, Massachusetts. Then from then on, I didn't like the things there. Then I went back to New York, and I lived with my aunt, and I got myself a guitar, and I started to really play. I started to play solos and so on and so forth. And this way, I got better and better.
How did you learn? Did you ever have a teacher?
No, I didn't have a teacher. I just used to listen to records.
Yeah.
And then when I grew up a little older, then I used to listen to Segovia, and I used to copy him. Copy all his things, classical. And then I started to play a little jazz. And what happened after that was I was playing with a band. Oh, I played with lots of bands, you know. With Lou Bring, we played in all the colleges, but then I played the banjo. But I always practiced the guitar. From then on, I got a job with a band to play in the Roseland.
Yeah.
When the Memphis Fives were there, and I played with Teddy Navana's orchestra. And there's a great violin player who used to come there to sit in with us once in a while. He used to play violin with the NBC house band, you know.
Yeah.
When the NBC was on Fifth Avenue, it was a little place. And finally, he introduced me to the NBC head, Ernie Volpe, that was going to get the symphony for the Radio City Music Hall.
Uh-huh.
So I made an audition for Mr. Cocozza, and he liked me. Then I got a letter for an audition in front of Volpe.
Uh-huh.
And there were many, many guitar players there at the New York Center. And they called my name, and I went in there. Mr. Volpe says, well, what can you do? Well, I said, anything. Naturally, I had a lot of nerve because I was young, you know.
How old were you?
Oh, I must have been about 21.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he says, can you play jazz? Sure, I played. I can't give you anything but love, but not single string, 3 strings, 4 strings.
Uh-huh.
And he looked. He says, can you play classics? Yes. I play Raccaneau's Prelude in C-sharp minor, which I copied from Eddie Lang, you know. Well, he says, can you read? Oh, yeah, I could read, to tell you the truth. I mean, I knew the notes, but I usually knew chords, F7, G7, that I was good.
Yeah.
But I couldn't read, you know. Yeah, I says, it's a good thing he didn't give me a part to read. So he says, all right, I'll let you know. Then I got a letter, rehearsal, Radio City Music Hall, with Roxy and Ernie Rapé. Jesus. So I said to myself, now what do? I can't read, but I want to look at my book. So I got acquainted with the librarian, Mr. Zimmerman, in Radio City Music Hall. I went there and I says, can you give me my guitar book to take it home? Yeah, he says. And I got home, I see piano parts in there. I almost fainted. My God, I says, what do I do now? Jesus, I'm trembling. So I went to a friend of mine, teacher. I says, can you mark the chords over all these pianos?
Oh, yeah.
So he says, yeah. So we stood up all night. Now I said, at least I was a little encouraged. Now, the rehearsal, 190 men on top of Radio City Music Hall. Mr. Gogotza, Ernie Rapé didn't come in yet, but there were 190 musicians there, the best. So Mr. Gogotza says, gentlemen, I want you to meet Harry Volpe. He's going to play Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C-sharp minor on a guitar. Because at that time, nobody played, you know. There was maybe 3 or 4 players. So I got up. What nerve I had. You know, I played it, and they gave me a hand. Now, Ernie Rapé comes in. We all stood up. Says, and he started, you know. I'm looking at the piano part. So finally, Rapé looks, says, guitar player, don't play on the piano parts. All I've worked for nothing.
So what did he want you to do?
Well, there were guitar parts in there.
Just very few.
They didn't want me to play on piano parts. Jeez, that's what I just wanted. Oh, I was a little encouraged, you know that? You know, I was there 2 years and a half. I don't know any music. But then I started to learn, you know, I started to get books. I used to ask my friends, what's this, what's that? And finally I learned to read music. But there was a big struggle. Then I remember I used to live in Brooklyn. Then I got married, you know, naturally. At the Radio City Music Hall, I got married. And I used to practice in the basement on Watkins Street in Brooklyn, where they had a big stove. They would, the coal, you know, they heat the house. I used to practice there while everybody's sleeping. I'm practicing, and I'm trying to learn how to read music. And that's how I started to get ahead. And from then on, I used to write columns for Orchestra World. I wrote columns for Downbeat, Metronome, because from you know, because I was playing in Radio City Music.
What kind of like teaching columns?
Teaching columns, they ask questions, and I answered them. And then I wrote, from then on, Carl Fischer called me if I want to arrange some solos for guitar, which I did. And Jack Robbins from Robbins Company, Leo Feist. Oh, I wrote things for all the publishers in New York. Got a lot of books out. Then I went and visited myself, and I bought a little mimeography machine. I started to print music and selling. Then I opened up a little place on 48th Street, Volpe's Guitar Center.
What year was that? Do you remember?
Oh, yes. Oh, it was around 1945, 1950.
What was 48th Street? You know what 48th Street is like now, right?
Yeah.
Have you been back in the last 20 years?
Yeah, I was there about 4 years ago. The old stores, guitars, especially guitars. But I was the first one. I was the man on 48th Street. Yeah. But I did a lot of work. After music hall, I traveled with Vincent Lopez Orchestra. We were on the road for 8 months. And
what was it like traveling on the road back in those days?
Well, I enjoyed it.
You had a car, a bus, or how'd it work?
Well, the way it worked is Lopez he was booked with MCA, and he gave us the fare for the train. But I had a car, so because I used to bring my family, you know, my son and my wife, and we'd travel all night. Like we play Boston. We get through at 12 o'clock with the show. Now we have to hurry to go to the next town 500 miles away because we have to be there 8 o'clock in the morning for rehearsal. And I drive all night.
So you wouldn't get any sleep?
Just to get there. Now I can't even drive from here to Fort Lauderdale. But that's the way it goes. Did I tell you when I met Django Reinhardt, one of the